Well, good afternoon. It is good to be here. I am a preacher, a pastor, which means that I have a title for this talk today. And the title is very clear. This is the Freedom Edition of the TED Talk, and it is entitled, Becoming Free, the Audacity to Be You. Becoming free, the audacity to be you. What if I told you that your existence was meant to be an act of rebellion? Your very existence, a beautiful but maybe dangerous act of rebellion. A refusal to shrink, to hide, to pretend. A defiant yes to your own authenticity in the face of a culture addicted to pretentiousness. What if I told you that? The French philosopher Albert Camus said that the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence becomes an act of rebellion. Your very existence becomes a rebellion against the cultural insanity that at times assaults us every day. We live in the current cultural moment. I tell people, I call it the crisis of conformity, where everywhere you look, we're asked and told to conform, to be like this and look like this and dress like this. From social media to television, everything tells you to be something other than yourself. The problem with that is that you end up being trapped in curated lives, suffocated by filtered expectations. And at the end of the day, you are held hostage by this deep desire to be liked, to get followers, to look for likes and post for praise, to be liked, not loved, not valued, not seen, not heard, but to be liked. The problem with that is that we live in this world that kind of tells us two different things. Our culture says two different things. Be yourself. Be yourself. But then punishes us if we don't perform. Be yourself. I'm going to say it again. But punishes us when we do not perform. Shine, but not too bright. Be bold and courageous, but don't be disruptive. Be real, but stay marketable. Imagine that. You are a human being, but you're being told that you're a brand at the same time. And what happens when we do that? Little by little, we lose some of ourselves. Little by little, we lose the essence of who we are. We lose our voices in the noise of validation. We dress up our insecurities and then call it confidence. We even have the audacity in some ways to chase applause, fame, and then call it purpose. That's not the case. Chasing those things that you think give you value and somehow make you better than being true to who you are, that's not the objective of your living and your breathing. That's not why you have been given this sacred space on this planet. And at the end of the day, we're talking about freedom and wanting to be free and pursuing freedom. And in this current moment, it makes sense. But can I tell you something? You cannot be free if you're committed to playing a part written by somebody else. It can never happen. And so what I've realized in this moment is that we are overtaken by a silent epidemic in our communities. It is called this, an addiction to affirmation, an addiction to validation, an addiction to attention. And you do it. We scroll for it. We perform for it. We follow the algorithm for it because we want that attention. The problem is, like most addictions, it leaves you hollow, hungry, and with a haunting question. And here's the question. Do I have value without the likes? Do I have value without the performance? Do I have value without all of the attention? And we punish ourselves and think somehow we're not worthy if people don't see us, don't know us. We feel we're not worthy somehow if we don't have all of the attention. I am leery of people who, when they enter a room, are committed to sucking up all the oxygen and not leaving anything for anyone else. That is not a sign of strength. That is a sign of a narcissistic, insecure personality who cannot find any value in themselves without tearing someone else down. But the truth is, before you did anything, you were amazing. Before you made one move, you were powerful. And not because of anything you have done, but because of who you are. Before the degrees, before the business, before the wealth, you had value. Before all the trappings of success, before the garments you used to cover up your own insecurity, before all of those things, you had value. And so you don't have to try to perform for freedom or try to get free or try to become free. The truth is, freedom has been waiting for you to remember who you are. Let me put it to you this way. With all of your flaws and all of your issues and all of your challenges, you are an unrepeatable manifestation of divine imagination. With all of the things you wrestle with to be you, struggle through to be you, you are an unrepeatable manifestation of divine imagination. And there is a song in your spirit, and those lyrics to that song have been written by your pain and your testimony and your triumph and your tears and your hurt and your wounds. Your soul has been singing that song quietly underneath the noise of validation and affirmation. But you are amazingly glorious without doing anything. You are powerfully profound without doing anything. You were never meant, with all of your giftedness, to be a carbon copy. You were never meant to chase approval. You were required to be your authentic self. You, again, with all the challenges that make up who you are a revelation to the universe. You are a rebel. You are a raw, radiant, holy disruption. Can you imagine that? You, a raw, radiant, holy disruption that does not need to ask permission to be who you are. And that is the beauty of your existence, of your life, that you are, and I'll say it again for those in the back, a radiant and raw, holy disruption. And the only thing stopping you from becoming that fully is because you spent too much time apologizing for your own voice. The only thing stopping you from walking in the fullness of who you are is because you spent too much time helping other people feel comfortable in your presence. And so you've dimmed your light for other people instead of shining the way you were called to shine. Instead of being who you were called to be. You are a sacred vessel. No, let me put it to you like this. The things you thought about yourself were problematic, all the quirks, all the little things that people talked about. That made you powerful. It is part of your sacred strangeness. It is you. And so let me tell you, if you're going to be free, I'll say it again, you don't have to ask for permission. Freedom has been waiting for you to catch up to freedom. And the thing that has stopped you from catching up to freedom is because you've been consumed with trying to be everything for everybody, hoping that somebody sees you, not realizing that most people you're trying to get the attention from weren't paying attention to you in the first place. And all of that time becomes wasted energy instead of basking in the fullness of who you are. So freedom is waiting, not for you to get free, but remember who you are. The freedom you desire is connected to your identity. It is connected to who God has shaped you to be. The freedom you require is already there, but it means that you must step out of the pretense, step out of the false persona, step out of trying to be impressive while losing the possibility of being impactful. You are majestic in your making. You are the embodiment, somebody knows that, of infinite possibility. You have been given this moment and this life to make a difference. But you can't make that difference, and you won't make that difference if you require permission to be yourself. So bask in the glory and the glow of your authenticity. Be audaciously you. Be powerfully you. Because no one is going to hand you freedom if you're afraid to look at yourself. Be who you ought to be. And while you're doing it, make sure you surround yourself with some other people who support you. Because there's nothing worse than be surrounded by people who are trying to undermine your desire to be free, and they think being free is to tell you how to be free, and pretty soon you lose your freedom and you become the unfree trying to listen to people who are nowhere near who God has called you to be. That is the power. So make sure you're part of a community that's ever evolving, that's filled with visionaries, dreamers, and doers who have been called by God to live the lives they were created to live, and commanded by God to love beyond the limits of their prejudices, and commissioned by God to serve. Make sure that in the process of attaining the freedom that is waiting for you, that you live, you love, you serve. You remind yourself every day that you are the one you've been waiting for. Remind yourself every day that the universe has been bending in your direction and conspiring to see you at your best. And at your best means being your true self. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Don't let freedom pass you by. And yeah, you hear freedom is not free, but you got to get tired at some point of sacrificing yourself on the altar of other people's ideas of who you think you should be. No. Be free. Be bold. Be courageous. Be authentically you. And when you do that, the world will be the path to your doorstep. And you'll never have to chase who you already are. Peace. Many blessings.